notice it?
You tell me, Tom. I'm just testing everyone now, just trying to catch people out, mate. No, it's been going on for a while, and it started last year. We thought we nipped it in the bud, but it's still consistently coming out at different times. You try and keep the circle of information pretty tight, and because, like I said, I always think I don't understand why people would do it. Especially if they're so-called in our camp, because I don't know how it's helpful to us. It certainly doesn't seem to be helpful to us. I mean, sometimes for us information is best kept within our sort of closed doors, because like I said, we have oppositions who are trying to analyse us and try and see if they can get some extra information on us. So the various ways you can find these things out, and you kind of hope that people come to their senses after a while, but like I said, it just continues to happen. So we'll get to the bottom of it.
It feels like this an age-old story in football. Players who maybe aren't playing, they tell their agents. And we hear about it.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is something more specific.
No, it's not. It's not. Definitely not agents, mate. The stuff that's coming out is pretty specific and pretty. The language used is not used by agents. Trust me.
Right. In terms of like terminology, or
Yeah.
okay, and
Go on, mate. Just 20 questions. I'm not going to tell you, but anyway.
yeah, I mean, what are you suspecting players then?
No. I'm not suspecting anybody. What I'm saying, it's definitely not the players. No, it's not the players. So, because for me, the information that's getting out is information that. Look, I think I've always said here, especially with medical information, I'm really, really careful, because it's still, even though we're in the world of football, and I know everyone thinks that these things should be, carte blanche in terms of information flow, I'm still very respectful of people's medical records and how much information we actually give on certain things. And sometimes players don't want that information disclosed. Simple as that. And the fact that it's getting out is unacceptable. From, like I said, a club perspective, because it doesn't help us. Not from the individual's perspective, it doesn't help him. And as a club, I just think, you know what, we've got enough challenges out there without adding more to ours.
Just to clarify, it's injury information rather than tactical.
It's a bit of everything, mate.
Okay. And just one other question on a separate topic. Just, you asked about Sonny before. It feels like you often, I've asked questions about his leadership. He's going through a goal drought at the moment. He scored a penalty a little while ago, but in open play, no goals in his last 15 games. How is he? That must be frustrating for him. How is he dealing with the sort of personal frustration with having to also be the leader of the group?
I think he's been able to separate both. Like, you're right, he is frustrated, because I think, like all attacking players, scoring goals and is a big part of their game, and certainly a big part of Sonny's game. I think his return over the last 10 years has been remarkable for a player in his position. But I think he's been pretty good at sort of separating both. I think, especially the last two games in particular, he's really tried to sort of make sure he serves the team, does the team things first. I think he's been an instigator in pretty much all our goals, in terms of playing things that, if he was sort of desperate for goals, he probably would have taken other options. So I think as long as he does that, I think we'll get him into a position where, he was a bit unlucky with the strike he had last night, where he'll get the goals. But more important for me, I think, is that he continues to kind of do those team things, because I think with a lot of our football, the goals will come to the attacking players if they do the right things over and over again, rather than them having to individually sort of go out there and find them.
You said you deal with it on the league, obviously. How will you deal with it?
Internally, and hopefully you don't find out. But like you deal with anything, I think if people aren't doing the right thing, you deal with it.
Is this something that could be in someone's time to talk about?
It's not about that. It's not about. It's about trying to make us as a football club run as professionally as we possibly can in terms of information flow and the way we conduct ourselves. And I don't think any organisation, whether it be football or any other organisation, if you have people giving out what I think is sensitive information, particularly on the medical front or tactical front, then I just don't think it's right. So you need to address it. Yeah, it's always in football. Like you always get, and I've had various ways, but certainly not as consistent as this. You know, usually when you address it the first time and you kind of address it with key people, people sort of understand. Okay, well, you know, we better sort of play ads in a little bit. But with this one, seems to be consistent, so we'll deal with it. Dave.
Just following on that, this talks to culture, doesn't it? One of the most
Yeah.
important things at any organisation, not just football.
100%, yeah, and that's that's the bit we're constantly, not just me, but the other people in the club, we're trying to change and trying to get the club to a place where, you know, there's a real sort of strong mentality and identity of who we are and protect that and sort of make sure that, you know, we have the right professional mindset in every aspect of, because, you know, to have success in football is very, very difficult. We know it's often fine margins. We saw that last night between success and not having success. And what you want to do is the things you can control. You know, try and do them to the best of your ability.
I just wanted to just a bit of housekeeping as well, just in terms of Son's contract. Is there anything at all that's moved since we last asked you about this?
I don't think so. I think we triggered the extension. Yeah. No, apart from that, no.
I just wondered if we get to the summer and he's still just got the 1 year, the extension year to come, how you and the club would feel about that?
I think all those things we'll address kind of at the appropriate time. I don't think now's the time to kind of look at that. You know, certainly at the end of the year there'll be a point of review where we look at sort of where we are as a squad and sort of do some forward planning. If I'm here, mate, and kind of look at what next year looks like and beyond. And you know, I'm sure Sonny will be part of those discussions. John.
With the mole, have you had to...
The mole. Gone from the leak to the mole.
Leaky mole. Have you had to like do a Colleen Rooney and set a false trail of information? That's how she dealt with her. Has it been anything like that?
No. Look, it's a simple process. You just limit where the information goes, and it's pretty easy to figure out.
Football managers are busy now. You're having to turn detective as well.
There's always a bit of detective work in football management. Like I said, I really just going back to, you know, I think it's a cultural piece. I think, you know, I'm big on, you know, creating a culture of success, and I don't think successful organisations behave in that manner.
Who is your go-to detective if you're reading or watching TV? Do you have one?
Oh no, yeah, Reacher. Just get out the big bat and pummel people. Okay.
Hi, Ange.
Yeah.
On a slightly different note, you spoke very well last week about wanting more voices kind of inside and
Yeah.
outside the club defending Spurs. I wonder kind of to what extent, you know, those voices can kind of be working behind the scenes at organisations like the Premier League and UEFA, kind of the bits of football we don't see to sort of push the club's interest. I mean, is that something you think Spurs do kind of well enough?
It's hard to say sort of the behind the scenes stuff because again, I'm not exposed to that at this club. You know, I said before, sort of my exposure to a lot of aspects of the club is fairly limited. But yeah, the public piece is stuff that I'm aware of, and you know, I think it can be sort of helpful, particularly through tough times. And again, I'm not talking about cheerleading, but you know, having people who understand, you know, sort of the process the club is going through and the challenges it faces and sort of how they're trying to navigate that, rather than sort of, yeah, like I said, at the moment it's all kind of, there's a lot of sort of groupthink happening where, you know, we're obviously not going well in the league, and you know, that's just means that sort of everything's seen through that prism and that light without no one sort of taking a step back and seeing actually that we've actually made some decent inroads in certain areas. And as I keep saying, and you know, certainly my belief is that, you know, we'll still get to where we want to, even with the difficulties we've had this year. But I think when I'm the only one saying it, it just sounds self-serving. It just sounds like I'm just trying to sort of protect my own space, which I'm not. Like I said, I don't. It's the furthest thing from my mind, but I understand that people would see it that way.
Have you had a chance to speak to Scott or, you know, or even Daniel about that
Look, particularly with Scott and Johan, you know, I have daily communication with them, and you know, I think they're of a similar mindset, you know, in terms of, you know, how we sort of communicate. I think I'm sure even you guys got tired of me talking so much this year. I think, you know, you're nodding, you definitely, don't shake your head now. Your initial response was a nod. And I understand that because, I mean, you know, Anthony and I say, you know, I was up last night, I'm up today, and it seems a lot of managers as well, not just me. We're spokesmen for pretty much everything that happens at a football club, and I'm okay with that. But a lot of things I got no exposure to, so it's not even right that I should be addressing them. But you know, I think with the way football's going, and you know, it's obviously becoming a massive industry, and there's so many things within the mechanisms of every football club. Having just the one spokesman for it doesn't make sense to me, whether that's internally or externally. But yeah, you know, we have discussions about, you know, how we can navigate and sort of communicate better moving forward.
Is it fair to say that what you're saying is sort of having someone above you at boardroom level who could talk about issues that you will not cross would be a helpful thing?
I think in some areas it would be, only because it kind of paints, I think, a more fuller picture of what we're doing as a football club. Because at the moment, like I said, it's just seen through the prism of our results, which is fair enough. Everyone will say, well, that's all that matters. But there are times I think it goes beyond the results, and understanding where we're at as a football club and what we're trying to build and sort of what our strategy is, and that maybe gives people an idea, okay, well, that's why they're making the decisions they are right now.
Thank you.
Elias to finish, please.
Regarding Wolves, obviously it's a team that's kind of struggled towards the bottom of the Premier League for most of the season, but still a side with lots of quality. They've got three players who frequently play from Brazil, full of international. And for a side that's trying to, I suppose, balance two tournaments like you are at the moment, is that kind of a unique challenge in the Premier League, that you face teams from the top to the bottom that just have so much quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the beauty of the Premier League. I mean, I think obviously this year, and I guess last year, the three promoted teams have really struggled. But I think in between that, you've certainly seen an evening up this year of, clubs who are very, very competitive, irrespective of their position on the table. And for clubs like ours, who, we obviously went through a really tough time with injuries, who are depleted, that means that you're really sort of vulnerable against every team, potentially dropping points and not getting results. Because like I said, the quality within, even sides down sort of towards the bottom end of the table is still very, very high. I think Wolves have got some outstanding individuals who could fit comfortably into teams in the top half of the table for sure, but they're not the only ones, whether it's all the other teams in and around there. And so that's the unique challenge of the Premier League. But I think that's why we enjoy it, is that, for the most part, every game is pretty competitive.
And on Mikey Moore, obviously, hasn't seen action very much recently. Is it just a case of players coming back in the 17-year-old just finding its way back in like the natural pecking order at football?
Yeah, not so much natural pecking order, but yeah, it's sort of understanding that, we've exposed Mikey a hell of a lot more than I thought we would at the start of the year. He only sort of just started playing under 21 football last year, and he had some injuries, didn't play a lot. So it was kind of touch and go at the start of the year. Do we let him sort of bet in with the 21s, or give him a loan, or keep him with us? But I felt that if we kept him with us, and my thing was let him train with us for a year, train with men, train in the first team environment, see how he adapts, and at the end of that, he'll still be 17 or 18, and we can make decisions. But he's played a lot more than we thought. But he's still very much part of our sort of setup in the first team, and it's training every day. And I think we'll see the benefits of that to years to come. We don't need to be in a rush with Mikey. He's a very talented player. He's working hard. I think physically, I still sense like he's growing into his body. I think, we've seen with Lucas this year, the difference in 12 months in young players is quite transforming. So I think Mikey will be in a similar kind of boat. But we're still very happy with him, and we're sure he'll keep developing.